The Interfaith Council of Greater Sacramento, our website is sacramentointerfaith.org. Talk about the topic of tonight, which is thankfulness and hope. Rabbi Wexler, would you like to go next?
Sure. And thank you, Reverend Bryant White, for your words. I guess when you're talking about institutionalized hopelessness, I think it is what we impart to the next generation, but more later. My name is Nancy Wexler, and I am the rabbi of Congregation Beth Shalom in Carmichael. This is my 20th year serving this beautiful community, and I feel a great amount of gratitude to this community who's gathered here tonight. I think it says something about a longing to connect, and I find that very hopeful. My focus is really looking at the question of gratitude. And I wanted to share a few key Jewish understandings of what is gratitude. One expression for gratitude in Hebrew is hoda'ah, and we first saw that word with the matriarch Leah when she had a fourth son, and she called him Yehuda or Judah. So the core of the name Judah is gratitude or thankfulness. She was so grateful to have that fourth child. So when we say in Hebrew todah, we are acknowledging the good. And another concept I wanted to share with you about the word gratitude from Hebrew is we call it hakarat hatov, which means recognizing the good. The word in Hebrew for good is tov. And so in any situation, we dig down deep. All of us, it doesn't matter what faith we are, we dig down deep to recognize the good, the glimmer of light in any situation. Gratitude is not something I think that is just comes. We have to be taught how to say thank you to the things in our life, to the air that we breathe, to the things that we see, to the sounds that we hear. We cultivate gratitude. We practice it. In the Talmud, which is a book of law from the 4th century, it says we're supposed to say 100 blessings every single day. Now, most of us maybe come up with maybe 5 to 10, and whether or not we reach 100 every day, it's the idea of recognizing good wherever we see it, those small things, the big things, the words of kindness, and that by practicing it, it's like going to the gym. You know, you work on that gratitude muscle so that when you hit those times where it's all out heartbreak or grief or suffering, we've got that inner gratitude muscle to recognize the good, which allows us not to be depleted, but to stand strong inside. And that too is contagious. When I'm around people that are practice gratitude, I feel their peace. I feel their inner strength. So I guess that's kind of what I want to say. And that by practicing gratitude, we stay alert. The first thing I say when I wake up in the morning is Moda ani lefanecha. I give thanks to God that my soul, this is a Jewish prayer, has returned to my body. And just for that, for being awake, I say thank you. And that kind of being awake connects me to God and to being real. I say that this hour of being with you guys, all of you, is very inspiring. And I want to talk, I'm going to shift back to gratitude a little bit more and share with you a story, because the teaching that I want to keep bringing forth to you is that we have the ability to recognize the good. And if we tap into that, everything shifts. So this is a Jewish folk tale that one of my favorites. It's about a man who is a water carrier. he had this big pole on his back, and he had these 2 buckets of water, and he would get to the river and fill up those buckets and come back to town and bring water to the town, and he'd go back and forth, and that's what he did. And one day, and his name happened to be Yuckel, Yuckle. That's his name, Yuckel. And he sees the rabbi sees him, and the rabbi says, "How are you doing? How are you doing?" And he says, "Rabbi, life is horrible, absolutely horrible. My back hurts all the time from this pole and those heavy buckets of water. And you know what else? My sons, they don't want to go into the business. They don't want to take over this water, bringing water to town. And not only that, Rabbi, when I get home, my wife has this big, long list of things she wants me to do every single night. My life is a mess. My back, my kids." And
Uh-oh.
there is Yaakov going back and forth. And the rabbi says to him, "How are you doing?" This is months later. He says, "You know, Rabbi, I'm doing all right. You know, my back, well, I'm pretty strong. I can make it to the river and back to town many times during the day. I'm so grateful for the strength of my body. And you know, my kids, they have dreams, and they're going to live their dream in this world in their lifetime. I'm so grateful for that. And you know, my wife, every time I come home, she's got this long list of things she wants me to do because she loves me and she depends on me. And I love her for depending on me. Rabbi, my life is so blessed." And the rabbi said to his disciples, "You know, it's the same man, but something shifted. He has been able to retrain his thinking to recognize the good." So I bring that to you because I too have texts that I can share with you from the Psalms. I can share these things, but it's really that mindset of this water carrier, this man who did physical labor, who was able to shift his mind to see that what he had was good. It says in the Mishnah, which is the 2nd century document, it's called Pirkei Avot, the sayings of the fathers. It says, "You know who's rich? The one who is content with what he has. The one who is content with what she has." When we can, there's a bit of equanimity in this, right? Accepting what we've got and yet seeing light in it. Because when we can do that, it's not so dark. There is a sense of, I can put one foot in front of the next. And each time we put one foot in front of the next, we grow stronger in our gratitude. Does thankfulness also mean contentment? That's your question.
Right. Yes.
I would say yes and no. I mean, back to what you said, a person can be thankful. But, you know, don't look over there. Don't want that. You know, I think that it is truly through the practice of gratitude and trusting that God is giving us what we need, that we do come to a place of contentment. There will always be folks that have more than we have. There will always be folks that have less than we have. And as we say, you know, we lift up our eyes lift up our eyes to God and who's the creator of heaven and earth. And if we feel a lack of contentment with what we've got to recognize God and recognize what we've been given. And that it is through the recognition of the good that leads to contentment. But gratitude is not necessarily the same. They're different words. One leads to the other.
So, how to keep close with God during that time of difficulties with gratitude and hope?
I think I'm going to try to put something out there on the table about that. When things go our way, it's good. When things don't go our way, and we can't accept that, that's when the suffering happens. Hardship is across the board. We all are going to go through it. We all are going to experience things that don't go how the losses of our loved ones, the losing of a job, the loss of a relationship, the loss of pets, the hurting of our children if something happens to them, and we have to wrestle with ourselves not to give in to that discouragement. I think about the patriarch Jacob. His name in Hebrew means heel, as in the heel of a foot. He had big problems in his family. He had lied to his brother Esau. He had left home, and he dealt with a lot of inner demons. But one night when left alone, he wrestles with this angel, or some say it was with his dark side, and he wrestled. And through that, he suffered some pain, but he earned a name called Yisrael, one who's willing to wrestle with God and to get to his truth. And so I think that when we face hard things that don't go the way we wish that they could have gone, we wish they could have gone a certain way, we've got to, number one, lean back a little bit and accept that this is what it is. This is how it's fallen out. To pretend that it was anything other than what it is the suffering. So I think that we have to wrestle with ourselves, and we have to not let the despair that we're seeing make us starve spiritually. We need to keep our eye on God, the Creator, who I believe is in charge, and be willing to wrestle with that part that wants us to give up, because we call that the Yetzer Hara, the negative inclination with us that leans toward despair, and we just have to call it out for what it is. There's that evil inclination. There it is, wanting me to despair, and wrestle with it and call it out, and be like Jacob, who turns from being the heel of a foot to Yisrael, one who's willing to wrestle for truth. I'm thinking about another character from the Talmud. His name was Nachum Ish Gamzu Latova. Now that's a lot of words, but he was known as Gamzu Latova, which means also this is for the good. And no matter what happened to him, he would say, this too is for the good, Gamzu Latova. And it's kind of a mindset, even though terrible things happened to him, he continued to kind of put God in charge and to say thank you. And I just want to give a quote about Viktor Frankl, who is a psychologist who survived the death camps during the Holocaust. And he said, we must never forget that we may also find meaning in life even when confronted with a hopeless situation, when facing a fate that cannot be changed. For what then matters is to bear witness to the uniquely human potential at its best, which is to transform personal tragedy into a triumph. When we can no longer change a situation like an incurable disease, an inoperable cancer, we are challenged to change ourselves. And I believe that we can do that by still saying thank you to what's left. To say thank you, to still say thank you, to say thank you, God, thank you for that which is there, because otherwise we just slip way down deep into that hole where we can't crawl out. So even in the face of the most difficult times, we can still find things to say thank you for it. It won't change it, but it will change us.
All right, thank
Love
you.
that.
So I'm encouraging the audience to put in their questions in the chat box below. Another question I have is, there is a lot of fear and despair right now because of the increased religious prejudice and persecutions around the world. I'm wondering what hope we have in the face of that. Depending on the area of the world, different faiths are being persecuted. But in general, and in America as well, increased religious prejudice is all over the place. How does that go? I mean, it's increased a lot of fear and despair among religious people who are suffering these religious prejudices and persecutions. How can we counter that with hope?
That's a great question. Go ahead. Rabbi Nancy, go ahead.
Look, I want to just acknowledge what we're doing here tonight. What are we doing here? We're people of different faiths, speaking of God in different ways, having the respect for each other. This is what we do. I believe that this kind of courage, the conversation of courage and hope in the face of the hatred that's rampant in our world, the conversation is, how do we show up in our lives? How do we make individual relationships? Like, I'm looking at Reverend Wyatt right now, and I'm not quite sure the title of Wayne Langford, but a president or stake president, leader of his community. We're looking at one another. We're speaking with one another. We have, this is how we do it. And we model this in our own lives. And we keep our spirits up. We keep our actions positive. We don't go down the hole of despair this is not the first time the world has faced crises. We're still here because I believe that the gratitude and the hope and the vision of people who want this world to be a better place continue to operate, continue to interact. That's why we're here, and that's what our job is. In Judaism, we have this concept like our mission statement, and it's called Tikkun Olam, to heal the world. That's what our job is. Our job is to help make this world a better place. That's our purpose. That's what we're told. That's what I grew up with. That's what I teach the kids, that our job in life is to serve God through making this world a better place. And the more that all of us live that from our own faith traditions with our own rituals, that's what we do.
So do each of you have like your go-to scriptures to give you strength and courage and hope for the future?
There are so many. I think,
Yeah.
how much time do you have? I mean,
Just one or two is fine.
in Judaism, we have what is called the watchword of our faith. It's Shema Yisrael, listen Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai is our God, Adonai Echad, God is one. And we believe that we are all connected. We are all part of this incredible humanity that God has given us. And that when we remember that we are one, that it doesn't, we are one. We are one. And so that prayer, which we say, I say it after the morning blessing of thanking God that my soul is returned to my body and that God trusts me to serve God with all my heart, just by being alive. And then the Shema Yisrael, that God is, that the presence of God is one in all of us. Then judgment is replaced by curiosity. Then mistrust is replaced by love, because we're all one. So I guess that there are many texts, and I'm sure that our panel can share their favorite texts that speak to them, that connect them to God. I guess that is probably the one that reminds me and reminds my people that we're all one. And so there's no room for despising a part of one's body, because it's all one. We're all one. So I would say it's this text from the Bible, that listen, that there is one God and that God is one. You asked the question, if somebody in our congregations came to us with a lot of despair. Was that your original question? Well, I think it was. And I would just say that one of the things, we listen with love. We listen with love. And with the kids at our religious school, I opened the Sunday school morning with a song. It's kind of it's a fun beat. I'm not going to sing it right now. I could. What are you grateful for today? And we go around and we, what are you grateful for today? And they all throw in the things that they're grateful for, and they can be little tiny things, but that's how we start our day. We start our religious school throwing out all the things that we're grateful for, and the kids just they join in and they love it. I just want to acknowledge also, Wayne, what you said about service. The greatest medicine, I believe, for our spirit is when we do acts of kindness for each other, right? When we mindfully do acts of kindness, of goodness for others, we are brought out of our dark pit of despair. So that is the medicine that I would suggest. And another thing with my kids in the 10th grade, we teach the respect and love for different traditions. So my 10th graders will be going to the Church of Latter-day Saints. They go every year. They visit the Muslims at Salam. They go to the Buddhist temple on Alta Arden. They visit the Sikhs. They have an opportunity of learning about other religions, and then they go and meet other teenagers. And I guess that there's something about having relationships and meeting different people and having conversations that is something that I think is healing and joyful and connects us. It's been a pleasure and an honor to learn with folks on this panel. It's opened up my heart so much, and May we all be blessed. May God bless the work that we're all doing in our lives. And may we continue to recognize the good, because when we do it, look how joyful we feel. My heart is so full with this joy of this interaction that we've had. I feel like I've made some new friends, and that's how we continue to serve God, through gratitude, through joy, and through hope. So thank you so much for this opportunity.